Happy Monday morning to you, Meeting House Church. My name is Andrew Zhao. I'm one of the ministers here at Meeting House. We are continuing our series on the Minor Prophets and going chapter by chapter through the book of Micah. We have chapter 4 this week, and in the past few weeks you've already heard from Sarah and Christian and Jeff, so naturally we've saved the best for 4th. I'm just kidding, the best is 5th next week when you hear from Mark Patrick. Before I begin, if you have not read chapter 4 yet, that would be helpful. So please pause this video, try to catch me with my eyes half open, screenshot it, email it to me, we'll have a good laugh, but then actually read chapter 4 and then hit play again. I'll be waiting right here. All right, let's get into it. If you recall, last week, Jeff discussed chapter 3. Chapter 3 had its intense language. Essentially, you had Israel being called out for their corruption. They weren't looking out for the least of people. The rulers were using their power to increase their own wealth at the expense of the poor. So really, none of it is aligned with who God is, or even what God wants us to do and how to live. And Micah lets them know about it. It's definitely not a good moment for them. And then we have a shift. As we go from chapter 3 to the 4th chapter, there's a shift that goes from judgment to hope. In this chapter, it's really the so what of having all their wickedness named. Just the other day, I was talking with my son about something he had done that hurt someone else's feelings. I wanted him to be aware of the hurt that he had caused, and also let him know I knew that's not who he was. You know, it was just a bad moment that we all have from time to time. As I'm talking, he's quiet, so I check in with him. I ask him how he's feeling, and he says, "Well, I feel like I'm in trouble." So we paused there, and I said, "Do you think you're actually in trouble?" And he's like, "No." So then we had to process through that awful pit in his stomach, that negative feeling he was feeling. I clarified that my goal wasn't for him to feel bad, even though it made sense that he did. Usually people feel bad. We feel bad when we realize we've caused harm. But my encouragement to him wasn't to just stay in that bad feeling, but to use it. After we allow ourselves to feel what we need to feel based on what we had done, we have the chance to enter a time of motivated self-reflection. We can figure out how we can act or change or be next time. Essentially, how can we grow so we don't have the same consistent hurtful results? I think there's a lot of hope in knowing that the future can be different, that we can be different. And friends, I think that's what's happening in Micah. Chapter 4 shifts its tone. Israel isn't meant to just stay in the state of feeling God's judgment and feeling shame and guilt. Despite Zion's wickedness, there's still hope. The Lord's temple was going to be rebuilt, and not by human corrupt leaders, but by God. And this temple would be for everyone, not just for the leaders or the elite or those in power. God's way isn't one of violence, militarization, or conquest, or empire building. It's one of peace and provision, cultivation and creativity. Even in this chapter, verse 3 talks about turning swords into plowshares and spears into pruning hooks. God's way doesn't include war. Instead, we see a description where people can sit under their own vines or fig trees and have their basic needs provided for them. They can sit there, they can rest, and they don't have this fear of others. They find comfort in who they've learned God to be. So just as Israel had the opportunity to figure out what to do with this hope, if they too believe that their future could be different, that they could be different, how about us today? Where might we have swords that could be transformed into plowshares? Plowshares that can cultivate landscapes, the areas around us, and creatively help those we're in community with, or people around us. Where might we have spears that could be turned into pruning hooks that we can use to mold and shape what's around us for the better, and even gather what's fruitful? And with those questions, I leave you to ponder them, Meeting House, on this fine Monday. And until next time, peace be with you this week.